అందరికీ నమస్కారములు. సర్వేభ్యో నమస్కారः. నమో నమః. Today is another good day for all of us that we are going to have a webinar from Shri Achyut Purushottam Karve garu. And also today is special that we are going to have one more speaker, Dr. BVK Sastry garu. The both combined will have a webinar today on the paradigm of the Sanskrit Shiksha. This is the topic of today. We will start this session with paying respects to our country by reciting Vande Mataram and then Prarthana. So I'll recite Vande Mataram. After that, we'll go for Prarthana. Vande Mataram, Vande Mataram, Sujalam Sufalam, Malayaj Sitalam, Sasyamalam Mataram, Vande Mataram, Subrajosna Pulakitayamini, Pullakusumita Trumadalasobini, Suhasini, Sumadhurabhashini, Sukhadam Varadam Mataram, Vande Mataram, Vande Mataram, Vande Mataram. Now let us request Govindaraj Garu to chant Prarthana, please.
Sarvebhyo Namaskaraha. Let us start with a brief meditation. Sit with your back straight and gently close your eyes and focus on your breath. Let us now chant Om Tara 3 times. Om. 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 Om Gananam Tva Ganapatigum Havamahe Kavim Kavinam Upamashravastamam Jeshtarajam Brahmanam Brahmanaspata Anashrunvannotibhis Sidasadanam ॐ श्री महागणाधिपतये नमः। ॐ प्रणो देवी सरस्वती वाजेभिर्वाजिनीवती धीनामवित्र्यवतु। ॐ श्री महासरस्वत्यै नमः। गुरुरेव गतिः गुरुमेव भजे गुरुणैव सहास्मि नमो गुरवे। न गुरोः परमं शिशुरस्मि गुरोः मतिरस्ति गुरौ मां पाहि गुरो। ज्ञानानन्दमयं देवं निर्मलस्फटिकाकृतिम् आधारं सर्वविद्यानां हयग्रीवमुपास्महे। श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पाद शङ्करं लोकशङ्करम्। शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः। ईश्वरो गुरुरात्मेति मूर्तिभेदविभागिने व्योमवद्व्याप्तदेहाय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। असतो मा सद्गमय तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गमय मृत्योर्मा अमृतं गमय। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। मातृदेवो भव पितृदेवो भव आचार्यदेवो भव अतिथिदेवो भव। ॐ सह नाववतु सह नौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। शांति शांति। श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः। हरि ओम।
హరి ఓం. ధన్యవాదములండి గోవిందరాజు గారు. థ్యాంక్ యూ సో మచ్. నౌ I'll briefly introduce the speakers. The first one is Achyut Purushottam Karve ji. Karve ji is one of our family, VSS family members, and he has been taking the webinars quite frequently. Even last month also we had one webinar from him. I'll briefly introduce him. Though you know him very well, but for those people who are new to this webinar, it is a brief introduction. He has been studying the tabla of Ahmad Jan Tirakwa for the past 50 years, trying to figure out the reasons for the exquisite lingual sounds he could produce on tabla. He was the first to point out that this technique of playing tabla was the outcome of reflection of a chaste recitation of the compositions. To reveal the chaste phonation of the letters, he took the refuge of Maheshwar Sutras. In 2015, after a study of 10 years on the Maheshwar Sutras, he recorded the findings on 64 letters of Sanskrit language and the 18 anus in his book, revealing the Atlantis of Sanskrit phonology. He has been working with the children, teaching them to read and write Devanagari script. And in his effort, he was guided by Pandit Vasudevacharya Joshi, a Vedic Pandit and a professor, and Professor Shivakumar Chaturvedi ji, a professor of Sanskrit grammar at Bharatiya Sanskrit Sansadan Samsthanam, Lucknow. I hope with this brief introduction, we will go for now. We will go for the next speaker. He is BVK Sastry garu. Dr. BVK Sastry garu, a visionary educator, a researcher in Gita Yoga Sciences, in Oriental religions, current master of yoga, walk yoga, the yoga science of sounds for health, wellness, and public health. The formulator of axiom conscious matter to unify yoga sciences and mysticism, practices of philosophy. An elevation in science of consciousness research from matter, model of quantum mechanics to quantum elevated expanded mechanics of Prakriti. BVK Sastry garu is an adjunct faculty at National Institute of Advanced Sciences, and he is invited member of India Didactic Association of Vice Chancellors for social transformation through education planning for universal progress. Promoting Panani Samskrutam education model of Sanskritam is Vak Yoga. Learn, use Sanskritam as yoga for yoga benefits. Promoter of Sanskritam for AI, that is SAI project. The language appropriate technology, that is LAT technology, model seeking inclusive extension, elevation, and expansion of current models of anglicized technology locked to character processing as language programming to cognitive digital interfaces for conversational human artificial intelligence. He served as invited member of Vedic Unicode Technology Proposal, a group member of W3C language groups, holder of US and Indian patents on Sanskrit keyboard, formulator and promoter of innovative project initiatives with global thought leaders, recipient of several prestigious awards, community recognitions, citations, invited speaker at international national conferences and platforms, promoting excellence of contributions in the field of yoga and Sanskritam, anchored to Srimad Bhagavad Gita, yoga framework for peaceful togetherness for productivity, sustainable developments, and prosperity. The very high-tech profile, I must say it has got multifold dimensions. Dr. Sastry garu is Indian citizen and holds a status at Florida, USA. Dr. Sastry garu holds a PhD in Sanskrit, traditionally trained in Vedic disciplines, practicals, and practitioner trainer in several allied disciplines. Dr. Sastry garu has several publications, conference proceedings, book chapters and articles, teaching programs to his credit. With this very brief profiles of both the speakers, I welcome both of them for this webinar, and I'll request Achyut Purushottam Karve to start the webinar, please.
Am I audible now?
You are audible.
So should I start? Right away.
Please start.
1 minute. I'll just present share. Okay. So the topic is the paradigm of phonetics, and it refers to 1 second. I'll just reduce it. It refers to the dominant approach or theoretical framework in phonetics at a given time, which influences how researchers approach the study of speech sounds. Now, in this webinar, I propose to what you can say. I propose to point out that these present approaches of phonetics and using what is commonly used in the Western world directly onto Sanskrit is not right. So that is the aspect which I am going to deal with, and how we can correct it in our traditional way. So I start. Shiksha is concurrent to phonetics. Shiksha or instruction being concurrent with phonetics implies that instruction often incorporates phonetics as an essential component, especially in the early stages of learning. Language is a prerequisite for instruction, as instruction is rendered through language. Phonetics, the study of speech sounds, is integral to help children understand the correct pronunciation, rhythm, and intonation of words and meaning. By aligning education with phonetics, learners develop better reading, speaking, and listening skills, leading to a more effective and accurate grasp of the language. Nature endows the organs of language at birth. With its help, a child learns to imitate various speech sounds it listens in its surroundings together with their meaning. Siddhe Shabdartha Sambandhi. At this stage, the instructor is in the passive mode and the child is in the active mode. Around the age of 2 to 3 years, the child starts becoming compliant to instruction. The child listens and attempts to imitate speech sounds in the form of words. At 4 years and thereafter, the child is expected to learn to read and write, and it is here that instruction becomes crucial. Instruction becomes directional and dimensional. After 4 years, until the age of 13 to 14 years, the instructor is in the active role and the child is in the passive role. The child has already learned to speak out words, but on its own account is incapable of resolving them into their component parts, that is, letters or akshara. After 14 years, the child is compromised to the language he speaks. That is, he is comfortable with his own phonation of words and feels that he needs no more instruction to speak words correctly. If the child has not learned the proper phonation of words and letters, he cannot change or improve his speech until he opts to improve it on his own account. Therefore, This becomes very important. So it's as far as adults are concerned, if adults themselves don't offer themselves for correction, they speak as they speak, because they are basically compromised with the language which they are using to communicate. In all the written languages around the world, the component parts of a word of a particular language are put into the form of an alphabet. The alphabet consists of a set of letters arranged in a fixed order used for writing a language. An alphabet is a writing system that features glyphics, letters, where each represents a distinct phoneme or sound, which includes both vowels and consonants. A script, on the other hand, refers to any visual representation of speech. A writing system is what you get when you combine a script with an orthography, that is spelling rules. What is under consideration here is the alphabet, which in the context of Sanskrit is called Varna or Akshara and not the script. The distinction between the alphabet and script is necessary because many languages share a common script but a different alphabet. The alphabet is unique to the language it represents. In the case of many European languages, the script is the same, but the alphabet is different. In contrast to many Indian languages, where the scripts are different, but the alphabet is moreover the same, to the exception of Tamil, where the vowels are the same, but the second, third, and fourth letter of each consonant class is represented by the first consonant sound. Not that the second, third, or fourth consonant sound are not formed in words. They are not represented in the script, and so they are not instructed. The universality in the alphabet of Indian languages comes down from the Pratishakyas, which is moreover reflected in the Devanagari script letters as also in other scripts of Indian languages. However, we find that the alphabet is not recited identically in various Indian languages, especially the vowels, which account for the need to change the string of letters in words. The effect is more striking where each Indian language have different pratyahara letter for declensions of nouns and verbs. In spite of this universality of the structure of the alphabet of Indian languages, how is it that the string of letters in each Indian language show variation on account of which the same object is represented by different words at times of the same genre, as in Gavi, Goni, Gota, and at other by totally different words, like the word potato, which is not native to India, is called batata in Marathi, alu in Hindi, and urlagadda in Telugu. From the above, we can conclude that though the alphabet of all Indian languages is the same, the string of letters in words is not the same, which illumines the subtle differences in phonation of the alphabet. The most glaring example is the difference in the string of letters in the word dharma becoming dhamma in Pali. It is with the help of these subtle differences in the phonation that individuals in communities are able to distinguish between self and non-self, that is, belonging to the same language group or another language group. At the same time, these subtle differences point out to the plasticity of the human speech organ. The question now arises what the phonation of Sanskrit letters are. The fact that the Devanagari script letter sequence distorts the Sanskrit language is evident from the way Sanskrit is recited or spoken across different regions of India. Spoken Sanskrit has lost its accent, the swaras, udatta, anudatta, and swarita. The mother tongue of native Indian speakers cannot accommodate the way Sanskrit words are stringed. It is therefore obvious that the Sanskrit alphabet now in vogue, that is, the Devanagari script, is incapable of bringing out the Sanskrit alphabet. More pertinently, how can a single Veda have so many shakhas, each with their own shikshas and mode of recitation? Had there been uniformity in recitation, there wouldn't have been so many shakas or shikshas for each Veda. So how can this corruption of the Sanskrit language in recitation and speech be restored? Obviously, by going back to the one who conclusively determined and stated how Sanskrit words are stringed. He was no other than Panini himself. Scholars need to answer the question as to what was the basis on which he could derive rules that went into the compilation of the Ashtadhyayi. The first part is the knowledge of Sanskrit words, those in the Vedas and those in vogue in the community of Sanskrit speakers. The second is to devise a tool with the help of which one can demonstrate as if the word evolved through a series of metamorphoses, later on called prakriya, devised subsequently by grammarians. The second is to devise a tool with the help of which one can demonstrate as if the word evolved through a series of metamorphoses, later on called prakriya, devised subsequently by grammarians. Which are those two tools Panini came up with? The first one was the it, and the second was the savarna. However, in order to devise these two tools, he had to detail each varna and examine their relationship not only at the level of phonation or vaikhari, but still deeper down to the level of articulation or madhyama, where he could actually see the articulatory process involved in the phonation and determine the two-way relation between letters. The it contains a target letter and a letter suffixed to it to complete the articulation of the target letter. Thus, the intention of the suffix letter to the target letter is only to completely illuminate the target letter and so become worthy to be elided. Therefore, the suffix letter to the target letter has been rightly called the pratyahara. Pratyahara letter, just as the pratyahara of birth is death. It is in death that the life cycle of birth is completed. A savarna letter, on the other hand, is a letter which can stand in the place of another letter. This, I think, is a novel concept special to Sanskrit grammar. But there can be many letters that can stand in place of another letter. And therefore, groups of letters were assembled which could exchange places. These groups of letters then served a dual purpose by suffixing an it at the end of the group. This is the best example of the Laghav principle. Just as in a single hammer, by one of its heads, one can beat a nail down a board and with the second, remove the nail. Secondly, instead of having an it letter for each letter, the it letter at the end of a group served as the pratyahara for each of the letters in the group. Thus, the it in the group A-I-Una as well as group A-I-U is na, as well as na is the pratyahara of each of the letters. It is ana, ina or una. Ana is the pratyahara for all the three letters. Similarly is the case with a group of letters ja, ba, ga, da, da, where sha is the pratyahara letter. So you can say jasha, basha, gasha, dasha or dasha. At the same time, a group of letters can be addressed in sequence. That is, jasha would mean all the letters in between ja and sha. Dasha would mean only the letter da. The only shortcoming in such an arrangement is that when one intends to indicate only the first or the second or the third letter of a group, the rest of the letters that follow in the group also stand indicated. Thirdly, the it on being common to the group internally unifies them. That is, inversely, the it letter demonstrates the internal congruity of the group, thus becoming one other's savarna. Putting these letters in groups with a pratyahara letter also helps in distinguishing one group from another and helps in illuminating each of the letter in the group completely. That is, defines the articulation of each of the letter, thus enabling an individual to observe their similarity and their difference. At the same time, being a complete group of letters with a pratyahara letter, it assumes the form of a word, however different from it, by the fact that it does not refer to any other object outside itself as a word does. The group only describes itself, which is the only objective of its compilation. Thus, letters were made to reveal themselves. Now, we are ready to answer the question as to why the Devanagari alphabet is incapable of becoming an instruction. The Devanagari alphabet was arranged with a conviction that a single consonant letter cannot be instructed without a suffixed vowel, and those who arranged the Devanagari script conditioned that the alphabet A is the script, alphabet K in the script is a conjugation of A and of K and a suffixed A, and so on for all the consonants. That is K, K, that is each consonant is suffixed with a akar. However, we find that the A is not and cannot be an it of consonants according to Panini. Therefore, the Devanagari script letters cannot be an instruction according to Panini. Secondly, none of the vowels in the Devanagari alphabet have been uttered together with an it, and therefore, secondly, none of the vowels in the Devanagari alphabet have been uttered together with an it, and therefore, the vowels as occur in the Devanagari alphabet are not instructed as would have been desired by Panini. When the groups were identified without duplication, they were ordered and called sutra, which later on became well known as the Maheshwar Sutras, Pratyahara Sutras, or the Samamnaya Sutras. It goes to the credit of Nandikeshwar, who linked the Maheshwar Sutras to the Damru. Nandikeshwar was a Nrutya person who wrote on Nrutya before whom? He was the guru to a person who has written on Sangeet. One cannot beat the Damru once. Now here comes a very important, why the ich letter? One cannot beat the Damru once. It has to be necessarily beaten at least twice, of which the first one is the illuminated letter and the second the it. Secondly, the Damru naturally embodies Laya, which is of the nature of birth and death. If one were to continuously play the Damru, the subsequent sound is the death of the first and the birth of the next, till when the last beat becomes the Pratyahara. Hence, the Sutra Halantyam, indicating that the La in Hala is the last it, thus making the Maheshwar Sutras a single sutra, as the it in the intervening sutras only pave the way for the first letter of the next sutra. In this way, the objective of instructing letters stands achieved with the help of the Damaru as a witness as well as the embodiment of Laya. Sutra, a very novel style of composition, much different from either ruchas or shloka form. The rucha or shloka can be easily deconstructed into prose, that is, into sentences with the help of anvaya. However, this is not the case with the sutra form. Thus, a sutra is a product of darshan. This form was then put to use by Panini in his Ashtadhyayi. Patanjali talks about it in the first Anika on how words can be described by words themselves. On the other hand, the script came into existence on account of the absence of an oral tradition, and where the erudite, Shiksha in a tradition, could not hand over their knowledge to the subsequent generation orally. A script conveys the knowledge only to those who can read it. However, in order to read, one needs to be instructed. However, the instruction itself occurs with the help of a related symbol in the word, for example, A as in the word apple. Thus, the script has to take recourse to a spoken word form to be instructed. But the A necessarily does not take the same form as in the case of the word academic, as it undergoes modulation on account of the following letter. Thus, in order to instruct the alphabet, one needs to be conversant in the language, the alphabet of which is being instructed. Here we see that there is circularity in the script, the alphabet and the word. The alphabet cannot stand alone without the support of the word. In such a situation, the alphabet does not stand separate ground as a specific phonetic articulation. The next question is whether instruments can be of any help. Here too, the analysis of the sound or the movement of the articulators do not bring out the articulatory process for each sound of the alphabet. At the same time, as we have seen above, that the particular sound in the alphabet gets modulated when it becomes part of a word. Thus, instruments can only give an overview of the articulatory process as well as the sound produced. Evolution of language becomes social because in each individual of the same species, a unique mechanism of production of sounds for communication, particular to the species, has been afforded by nature, together with a synchronized system for the appreciation of those sounds, that is the ear. In short, lingual sounds are for others. The need for communication within the members of a community create the requisite niche for the evolution of language. However, as compared to other species of animals, the human organ of speech is plastic. And so we find a wide range of human sounds in different languages. This is why Patanjali says that grammarians do not make words. They only regularize them by bringing them to a standard form, because individuals use words to express meaning. On the other hand, modern phonetics assigns a particular sound to each letter in a word with the help of the script itself. If one goes through an English dictionary, one will find a pronunciation guide at the bottom of the page describing the sound each letter in the word stands for with the help of words. Such a guide does not exist in Indian dictionaries. The plastic nature of the human speech organ demands that for standardizing phonemes, instruction is not sufficient at the Vaikhari level, but has to go down to the level of the Madhyama, that is, to the level of articulation. In other words, in order to standardize word form, instruction needs to be at the level of articulation for the alphabet and not at the level of its product, that is Vaikhari. In order to achieve this, that no doubt arise in the rules of the Ashtadhyayi, Panini devised the Maheshwar Sutras. Dharma in the case of language is to utter a word within the framework of laya. Therefore, it envisages skilled use of letters within a word to achieve the desired purpose, that is communication. All animals use it skillfully, with the exception of man, who uses it as he wills, with no regard to laya, and hence the necessity of grammar, so that he aligns himself with nature. In the case of other languages than Sanskrit, the laya within the word is disrespected, and hence those words are called apashabda. This is what Patanjali intends to bring to notice when he compares the words gauhu with goni, gota, etc. Salvation is not social, it is individual. Language, and in particular the Maheshwar Sutras, are the tool to achieve it. What corrupts him, that is the letters constituting the word, is itself the means to redeem oneself from it. And hence the study of the Maheshwar Sutras in particular and Sanskrit in general. Now, before we proceed, I'll just stop share. So before we proceed, if anybody has questions regarding this deliberation, I would like people to ask questions. And thereafter, Sastry ji will respond to it and put up his views on this topic. So if anybody has questions regarding this, I will be eager to dwell on them and answer them to my ability.
Okay, ధన్యవాదములండి.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Anybody wants to ask any question? Okay. You may note down your questions. We will take it up in the end if at all you have. Then now let us request Sastry Garu, BVK Sastry Garu. Let us welcome him first, and then let us request.
Karve Mahodaya is there in the group. Hari Om.
Okay.
If he wants to speak, Karve Mahodaya, Bhavan kimapi vaktum ichanti va? Karve Mahodaya.
Yeah. Hello. Hello.
Hello.
Okay, let us go proceed.
Okay, BVK Sastry Garu.
Just I'm setting up my this one volume. Okay.
Okay, no problem.
Namaskaram andi Sastry garu.
Namaskaram andi Vagunara.
Ram.
So Karvebhyo Navamsi. Atra किंचित् वक्तुम् अवकाशं दत्तवन्तः भवन्तः सर्वेभ्यः मम प्रणामाञ्जलिः. The concept introduced by Achyut Karveji, Achyut Purushottam Karveji, is a very important one. He is addressing the issue of Samskrita Varnaksharas, Samskrita Shikshanam, from the music side, that too instrumental music side. And why is it important? If the bowl or the cheese, the kruti is to be documented, there has to be some script. And that script has to resonate with a language. Whether it is Tyagaraja's kruti or Annamacharya's kruti, the documentation of the kruti requires a script. And a script requires lipi rupa of the bhasha aksharas. Now, when we come to Sanskritam, as we understand, what is our given axiom or the reference point? For Sanskrit Vyakarana, we take historically Panini as the reference point, the Munitraya Sampradaya as the Adhara. Panini, Katyayana, Patanjali, and then we get lot of other later persons, Kashikakara, up to Nagoji Bhatta, and then Siddhanta Kaumudi, Bhattoji Dikshita. So that parampara is the Vyakarana parampara. What is the umbrella name for that? The umbrella name for that is Vedanga Vyakarana. So when we talk of Vedanga Vyakarana, the defining frame, it is not the Loka Bhasha, the social language. We are talking of a standard language which is used as a model for rest of the work. So without getting into too much technicality, I want to address very focused questions. First, why is Sanskrit called Vag Yoga by Patanjali and invokes a Vedic Rucha for that. Vagyoga with Dushyati Napa Shabdai. For that, lot of explanation is given, but the teaching of Sanskritam as Yoga Bhasha is kind of lost. And why did we lose that? Why did we lose the Vagyoga tradition of learning Sanskritam? It's an interesting question to pursue. That requires a different platform and time to explain that. Nevertheless, in Munitraya tradition, Sanskritam is called Vagyoga. Teaching tradition goes into three models. One is Bhasha or the Loka Bhasha, Manushi, what we call. The second one is Chandas or the Daivi. And the third one, which is less known, is Yoga Bhasha, what Deva Bhasha. That is why we get several names for Sanskrit, Brahmi to Bharati Bhasha, Gihi Vagvani Saraswati. Then we separate as Vyaharaha, Uktihi, Lapitam, Bhashitam, Vachanam, Vachaha. So getting back to the Paninian frame, defining the character set is the primary thing to go for the language. And how does Panini define the character set? Varna Akshara Samamnaya, needed for Samskrita Vyakarana. The basis is called Shiva Sutra. We can go for the Nurtavasane, Nataraja Raja, Nanadadaka, Nava Panchavaram, the Damaru concept and all that. But I focus upon the 14 Shiva Sutras which are given as Varnakshara Samamnaya. So teaching, learning Sanskrit, starting with the Shiva Sutra, is almost a kind of gone tradition in India itself. We have to restore this. This is what Karve, Achyut Karve ji is pointing out. He came to this conclusion because in the music documentation or Akshara production in the tabla, okay, sa, dha, these kind of sounds, it was not easy to identify and connect to Sanskrit. But his guru taught him how to connect all that. So he started looking at the phonation from the Mukha, Vagindriya, the Shabda Smruti, the Shabda Grahana, Ucharana, and then the finger movement on the instrument, the movement of the Damaru, all that. Later, he came deeper. He has shown some videos last time. When a Varna is Ucharita, articulated, how the tongue shape changes, the cavity of the mouth changes, the flow of air changes, the neural currents change, the lung activities change, the lips rounding changes, nasal cavity, okay, airflow position changes. These are the technicalities of the Swara, Vyanjana, Alpaprana, Mahaprana, Guna, Vruddhi, Prakriti Bhava, Samyuktakshara, Gunitakshara, Padakruti, Varnakruti, Udatta Udatta Swarita. These are the technicalities which Panini has used. And the basis is Shiva Sutra, Varnakshara, Samamnaya. So if we have missed building our Sanskrit teaching today and connecting it to Shiva Sutra, Maheshwara Sutras, we have lost the tradition. We have to restore it back. This is one of the points very important for Vadatu Sanskritam as a spoken language or the Shastra Bhasha, and then for the Veda teaching, Veda Shikshana, Ucharana, Anucharana, Prayoga, and all that as foundation for the Pratishakyas. So Shiva Sutra on one side goes to the AIE Aksharamala, and on the other side connects to Pratishakya, and then on the other side to the Mantrakshara, Yogakshara for the Upadesha. Therefore, Shuddha Upadesha of Varnakshara Samamnaya is critical. This is what Karve is coming to from the tabla side, because losing Shuddha Varnakshara of Sanskrit is affecting the music tradition on his side. That is what he has taken for 30, 40 long years to come, and then connect it to the body movements, the Indriya, the brain, body, spine movements, the scientific study of today and all that. Therefore, I will focus upon 3 simple words, what we are very familiar with: Varna, Akshara, Shabda. Okay? What is the difference between Varna and Akshara? Why do we call Shiva Sutras as Varnakshara Samamnaya together? Why is it not Shabdakshara Samamnaya? Why is it not Dhvani Samamnaya? There is a reason for that. In Vedanga Shadanga model, Vyakarana is the third one. The basis is the Shiksha Shastra. And Shiksha Shastra uses the technical term Varnasvaraha, Matra Balam, Sama Santanaha, Ityukta Shikshadhyaya. So when we study Vyakarana as anchored to the Varna key concept, every pada as a Prakriti Pratyaya is Varnakruti. This is Gita. Paschame Partharupani Shatashotha Sahasrashaha Nana Vidhani Divyani Nana Varnakruti Nisha. So for us, Shiva Sutra anchored learning of Sanskritam is Nana Varnakruti Prakriya. It is Prakriti Pratyaya Prakriya. It is not script processing. So when Varnakshara Ucharana takes place, we are getting to how the mind-brain interface takes place. And if we don't understand that, we don't get the Vak Yoga occurring in our body as mantra japa. So that is the technicality of the Varna. Therefore, Shiva Sutra first is Varna Samamnaya. And what is Samamnaya? Why is it not Varnamnaya, Varna Veda? Amnaya is Veda. What is Samamnaya? All the 4 Vedas require the same Shiva Sutra Prokta Varnas. And then the modifications. If Shiva Sutra Varna Ucharana is not proper, then every Veda pronunciation goes wrong. Therefore, we have to get back to the Shiva Sutra Varna Samamnaya. Then second one, if this is Varna Samamnaya, what is the difference between Varna and Akshara? Have you ever contemplated on this particular thing? Difference between Varna and Akshara, which again is what Karve is pointing out. How does the Varna Smruti become an Akshara Smruti? Why do we call it Aksharamala? Why do we say, if some person doesn't know, we say, kuda telledu. So why do we say that particular thing? We say very clearly, if we know how A becomes A, how A moves to E, how we can combine A to E and then further extend that, that is the first two sutras of the Vyakarana, Vruddhi Ich, Adeng Gunaha, and then that also gives us the It Sangana, importance of that which Achyut Karve brought out. This is not possible to understand by scripting. It requires phonation, Ucharana. And that Ucharana is a Chitta Vritti. Therefore, we have to anchor the Sanskrit studies for the Shuddha Ucharana of the Shiva Sutra, Varna Samamnaya and the Akshara Samamnaya. So this is the entire message of Paspashandhika in Patanjali, where he concludes Varnaha Upadeshaha Shuddhaha Patyante. The Sanskrit standard is a Shuddha Upadesha. The Desha Bhasha Upadesha is the Prakrita, separated. So when we teach Sanskritam using Desha Bhasha model, there will be Pada Vikrutis, Ucharana doshas. And that dosha has so much permeated today's Sanskrit usage by adding anglicized language model. This needs correction, and this is very important thing that Achyut Karve has brought out, and he is referring to the Damaru, and he is referring to the tabla, Ucharana, as a mechanical, physical, musical instrument. And how does he get that model? Panini referred to the prani, shabdas, chashaka, and then the peacock, and all the other animals as a standard timer for the pronunciation of the Varanas. In this case, the importance of Achyut Karve's working is he is drawing that standard of timing to the Damaru and the instrument tabla. And he has done extensive work on that. When you say Dadaha, thin, how do you map that Akshara sound to the instrument-based sound? This is integration of the Sangeeta, Sahitya, Kala as Bharata's Natya Shastra basis. So when we take Kavya and Shastra together as yoga to appreciate, we do need an anchor to the Shuddha Ucharana of Shiva Sutra, 14 of them as Maheshwara Sutras. And this is also important for those who practice meditation. Coming very specifically to the technicality of differentiating Varna and Akshara. Varna is there as Shiksha Shastra right from Upanishads. But when it comes to Gita, we have got a whole chapter which talks of Akshara Brahma Yoga. And how is Akshara defined in Gita? Akshara is defined in Gita as an answer to the question, Kim Tat Brahma? 8th chapter, first question Arjuna. Kim Tat Brahma? Pointed answer from Yogeshwara Krishna is Aksharam Brahma Paramam. This is the clue to study Gita as the basis of Vak Yoga, Gita as the basis to explore Jignasurapi Yogasya Shabda Brahmati Vartate. The clue for it is given in 17th chapter, Anudvegakaram vakyam satyam priyahitam chet swadhyayabhyasanam chaiva vangmayam tapa uchyate. So this is the yoga tradition of learning using Sanskrit called the Vag Yoga. The discipline is further expanded as Vako Vakyam, where the meaning of the Veda mantras are to be decided as per the Nirukti, the fourth of the Vedangas. So today's Sanskrit studies are lexicon based and not the traditional Nirukti based. So to get into the traditional Nirukti base, we require Shabda Vyutpatti. A Shabda will stay sadhu, Shuddha, if the Varnas and Aksharas in that are true. How do we know that Varna and Aksharas, the character structure of the given word is a standard? The anchor reference is Shiva Sutra. So to understand Sanskrit Vyakarana, the technicalities of the It Sangha, to understand the technicalities of Tulya Asya Prayatnam Savarnam, to understand why Samvruta Vivruta we get back from A as the Vivrutopadesha Karyaha to Samvruta later. How do we move this Varnaksharas? Do we just look at it as the Mukha Indriya, Mukha Nasika Vachana, which goes outside, Bahyocharana, Bahirmukha, or Vaikari to Madhyama to Pashyanti to Para as the Mantropadesha? Our anchor is still Shiva Sutra. So it is to the credit of Karveji for drawing our attention to the importance of Shiva Sutra and some of these very critical sutras. How to connect Shiva Sutra on one side to the Lokaksharas as AAEE, Aksharmala, what we are practicing, Swara Vyanjana model, and then to the Sangita, Gita Aksharas as Sari, Gama, that's Saptaswaras, where this Tal, Bol, Cheese, every other thing documentation comes, and then to the Pratishakya, which is the foundation for the proper learning use of the Vedas, and then to the Mantraksharas, which are needed for the Upasana. So this is where I have been fascinated by Karveji's work, his videos, what he has documented, looking inside the mouth, which needs a lot more study, and his method of teaching the Shiva Sutra Varnaksharas in the reverse way to facilitate, a path-breaking way of learning. And he has got enough experimentation with his school children training and other things, how to impact the proper pronunciation of the local language, Marathi. And obviously it comes to rest of all the Indian languages. So this is where I would stop and invite any questions, comments, and connections to be made from your side. Thank you, Karveji and Sastry Garu and all the other persons who have listened to this brief exposition, which I called as Vak Yoga, Samskrutam Nama Vak Yoga, Yogavat Tasya Shikshanam, Yogavacha Phalam Tasya, Yoga Bhasha Hi Samskrit. This is the karika which I have made for myself to project, to present this particular understanding. And how does this connect to computers? AAEE is not ABCD. So if you want to build voice integrated AI applications, we should know how the 18 types of the ana, that is Ucharana of the Akara, 18 different types, are to be modeled and represented in the machine. English at best has 5 of them, not more than that. How are you going to represent the 18 and show the combinations in Sandhi, in Prakriti Bhava, Lopa, Agama, Adesha? Very interesting study. Well, this part of it is science of sounds, which we have to develop from India, our own model. Why do we expect the IPA? IPA is International Phonetic Association to do this, or a corporate like Google or somebody to investigate. It is our language. We need it. We need the Shuddha Ucharana, and we have to do that. If we don't set our language standards, well, obviously others would set, and then we continue to have the Arjuna Vishada Yoga. So if we don't have to have that Arjuna Vishada Yoga for Sanskritam, we need to get back to the anchor of Shiva Sutra as a foundation to train Sanskritam for Loka Bhasha, Samskrita Sambhashanam, for Sanganaka Bhasha, for the computers, for Veda, Shikshana and Prayoga as Vedakshara, and for yoga schools as Mantrakshara. Thank you.
Dhanyavadaha, Sastry Mahodaya. It's a very clear, simple way, and at the same time, great topic has been explained to the people. What Achyut Karve was telling was very advanced research. I was thinking while hearing his lecture. But when I hear you, a concept of the subject has been clarified properly. And we have some good people on subject of Natya Shastra like Sumitra Velluri, and an expert in Sanskritam and Veda Patnam, Ganapadiji, and the Veda Jai name, Kapreji is there. I request the experts in the line to react with this subject. Since it's a research topic, it's not a simple base topic to be talked to by everybody to their questions and other things. However, if anybody has got a question, they can put it. But senior people who have got the knowledge on these things, I would like to react on this and make it a good interaction on the subject. It's a very good research topic. It needs a lot of study, a lot of understanding on the subject. And basic point is, Mahesha Sutras are the basic things to be taught to learn Sanskritam and Veda Jainam also. But what we are following nowadays in Sanskrita teaching is not through Mahesha Sutras, simply taking some 15 vowels and 33 consonants. We go ahead in teaching the Sanskritam so that the people get introduced into it. Once they get introduced into that, they will go into more details. Otherwise, bringing them to the platform itself is becoming a problem. So for that purpose, we are keeping silent on Mahesha Sutras while teaching Sanskritam and going ahead with simple varnas of swaras and vyanjanas and going ahead in bringing them to the platform. So, but there is a need, as you Sastry sir has stressed it, there is a need to do further research on this and make understanding of the people who are interested in really learning Sanskritam as a Pandit and also Veda Jainam. They are supposed to know the Mahesha Sutras and the research being given by Achyut Karveji and the good explanation being by Sastriji. At the same time, I request Sastry Garu to give some more lectures on the subject on various topics. You know, by the profile I had, we request you to enlighten us with your webinars. Kindly give us series of webinars on the subject to our audience, please.
Yeah, I am with you. You ask me what you want from me. I want the team to work together. I will work with the team. First thing, Kapre Guruji, if he is there, then I know some of his students and who are abroad also who know him very well. He should take the lead because if we from the South India do not take the lead, it will be very, very difficult. And Andhra, Trilinga Deshamo is the Veda Bhumi. If you don't do, if we, I say not you, we don't do this particular thing, then the Greek standards, Latin standards will be imposed on Sanskrit, which are already being done through the machines. And this is Veda Vikruti, not the Ashtapatha Vikruti. This is the Veda Vikara that is going to take place.
Yes,
Okay, we
yes.
need to do that. Now, the second thing is, who should take up this research? It is those who have somewhere come to mid-level of Sanskrit. We have to review the basics. So when a person goes to PhD program, they already know something, but they start questioning the basics. So a researcher is not a primary school goer. So Maheshwara Sutras, Shiva Sutras are not primary school subjects. They should be taught, but the research in this must be done by the professionals who are already exposed to this particular line. And this is, okay, let me tell you one simple thing. How much money we want from Sanskrit? Should you ever depend upon doles given by whatever the institutions, grants? No. You have the whole potential to change the human-machine interface. And that comes from the Veda. Okay? When you say a mantra, Agne, Trayasva, you are addressing a physical matter fire outside, using a mantra and transforming the nature. And this is a profound subject. It's a very, very profound subject with billions of dollars market. Healthcare, mantra ushadham is there. And we are just believing it. We have to deliver that. And this is where I want the team here to come with an open mind. Let's work together and make this Vikasit Bharat, Atmanirbhar, all that kind of a thing with Sanskrit Bhasha. Okay, this is my submission. Please go ahead with your questions.
1 minute. 1 minute. I'll just present the beauty of Panini. The beauty of Panini. Unfortunately, the Ashtadhyayi starts from Buddhiradecha. It doesn't start from Aiguna. Now, who has brought this change? Why Aiguna has not been made a part of parcel of the Ashtadhyayi? Point number one. If the Ashtadhyayi is starting with the Maheshwar Sutra, the first letter is A. It is not astonishing, and it has not been done with casuality, that the last sutra is also ending with a. That is the sutra A. Now the sutra A has been manipulated to mean that Vivruta becomes Samvruta. In spite of Katyayan saying that Akarasya Vivruttaupadeshe Akarasya Grahanartha. Panini has very intelligently placed the last sutra as A, which no one is in a position to phonate. I was dwelling with it. Even the commentary on the last sutra given by Katyayan and Patanjali don't state that the A is becoming Savrutta. It so happened that there were sparrows here. So what is the nature of this first A? It is not what we think to be A, what we write on the script. It is a human sound. What is that sound? I heard a sparrow chirping. As it chirps only 2 times. It doesn't chirp a third time. Now, in this case, for example, I'll say it will say, Now, this is a call. Now, the first vowel, that is the first in it, is the vowel illuminated, and the second in it is the pratyahara. So ends the Ashtadhyayi. So the Ashtadhyayi itself ends with a pratyahara and starts with the letter A. So it is ayuna. It cannot be ayuna. The point is, if we are incapable of appreciating the articulation of Panini himself, which he has rightly put at the beginning of the Ashtadhyayi, we have to be very careful as far as this first vowel is concerned. Secondly, the last sutra tells that the second A is a pratyahara. You can't say a third A after that. It cannot be A. It can only have two. Therefore, while illumining, that is how this came to my mind. While illumining a letter, you cannot illumine a letter by voicing one letter. It has to be voiced as two letters, which tallies with the damru. That you cannot beat the damru once. You have to beat it twice. So here comes the question of the it saudhya. So the it saudhya is not a mechanical thing. The it saudhya is a practical, what you can say, a practical thing. It is the basis for the existence of varna as far as human beings are concerned. So the A is the most important, and then the subsequent letters. If you have missed the A, you have missed everything. And so the interpretation of the Ashtadhyayi will be skewed. The Paniniya Shiksha, as I discussed or I wrote to Sastry ji, I told him that this Paniniya Shiksha is unpaninian in the best way possible. So the Paniniya Shiksha should have included, from my point of view, I am discussing and people, there are very many scholars here in this webinar. What is the Paniniya Shiksha? What should the Paniniya Shiksha have been? The Paniniya Shiksha should have been the Maheshwar Sutras and the Saudhya Sutras of the Ashtadhyayi. Bas, that's all. This is the Paniniya Shiksha. The Saudhyas and the Maheshwar Sutras together will form the Paniniya Shiksha. Nobody need write on it. He has explained it practically. Therefore, if we do not conform to his articulation, how is it possible to interpret the Ashtadhyayi? This is the problem. Unless we raise ourselves to the level of the articulation of Panini, we will not be in a position to interpret it. For example, without the it saudhya, could he have written the dhatu patha? Where the basis is the it saudhya which vanishes. Obviously, that is not the intention of the it saudhya in the dhatu. So I do not know how scholars of Sanskrit interpret all these things, but practically this is what I see. Thirdly, one more aspect is in ka, kha, ga, gha, nga. They are saying that a consonant cannot be phonated without a vowel. So A is the vowel with which it is phonated. This is the Western model that you cannot phonate a consonant without a vowel suffix to it. But is the vowel which is suffixed to it a it? When you are teaching the alphabet ka, if it is not an it, that sequence cannot be an instruction. You can use it for teaching students the script, but it cannot take the stand or the place of instruction. So the instruction needs to be the Maheshwar Sutras. The instructions cannot be the alphabet, that is the Devanagari alphabet. Secondly, so is the case, and then interpreting the Maheshwar Sutra, the other consonants in the letters in the Maheshwar Sutras as if they are suffixed with an akar is still foolhardy. The consonants in the Maheshwar Sutras are not suffixed. They end in a pratyahar. So if I say Jabagada Dasha, that ja has no suffix to it. So it is just Jabagada Dasha, it is ja, ba, ga, da, da. And going connecting it with Bhartrihari, all aksharas are spotas. Ka is not a. Because if a becomes a, it ceases to be a spota. Therefore, the first vowel in the Maheshwar Sutras is a. That a is plosive. And if you keep that a plosive, then only you will be in a position to phonate the last sutra a. Otherwise not. These are the aspects which need further consideration, and to interpret the ideation of Panini without a proper understanding the proper articulation of the Maheshwar Sutras, it is impossible to understand Panini. This is, I have not read it. I have no command over it. But however, at every place you find this it letter there, it becomes a tool in itself, where he has to address single letters. He cannot address a as a, he will address it as ana. This is the issue at stake. And so, unless Sanskrit grammarians appreciate it, I'll give you another example. It is not that Panini is foolproof. I don't accept. Why should I accept? There might be certain shortcomings in it, but you point it out within his framework. For example, I changed, they have not included in the Maheshwar Sutras. How do we include it? Now this is very unique. So, can be, is a savarna of R and Lu. So, needs to be included in the second sutra, because it is a savarna of that sutra, of R and Lu. So, it is quite obvious that you do R. It is fine. So the Ru has also been instructed. So here comes the question: if you have not if we do not understand the importance of a pratyahara letter, we can never understand the Shuddha Ucharana of any of the letters. If you can just imagine, if there was no death, that the pratyahara death is not there, what would happen? It is so natural. So in the instruction, the pratyahara is as important as the letter that is illuminated or instructed. Suppose I have my daughter, I told her that you experiment. For example, if I have to teach the child ka, how do I teach the child ka? The last sutra says a. So you use that model. So you say kaka, or you say chacha. The second cha will become the pratyahara for the first one. This is simple. Instead of I saying cha 1,00,000 times and the child not being in a position to appreciate that letter, we have models in the Ashtadhyayi itself by which we can instruct concretely and easily with no problem. We have problems with children who cannot pronounce. So how do we address that problem? We have to take recourse to the Maheshwar Sutras. Any questions? I will be very much pleased to answer to this thought process, because this thought process is not a scholastic one. It is totally a practical one. So I wish people ask questions.
I request members to interact. Ranga Ramanujacharya is there. Kapreji is there. Sumitraji is there. Sumitraji, please react. You are all experts on these lines.
Namaste, sir. But unfortunately, I'm totally new to the subject, so I'm just learning, sir. Thank you.
Anyway, they were talking about the in line with Sangeetam and Bharatanatyam and Nachasastram.
Yes, sir. But
If we can link up these two, and give your reaction, it will be a great education to the audience.
Yes, sir. But our way of approaching to the sounds is little bit different when you talk about the Natya Shastra and Abhinaya, because we include the dhvani into that. So whatever sound that we utter, according to the Abhinaya, we change the modulation, the pronunciation. So that's the reason I asked the Dvanyanukarana of Anandavardhana, does it has got anything to do with the pronunciation, utterance of the sounds? I was wondering about that because, to give you a simple example, no, basically I'm talking about the Telugu language, not the Sanskrit.
Telugu you can say no problem. I can understand that.
Yes, sir. Just if I say Swami Rara, so in a Sringara Rasa, we utter it in a different way. If it is in a Khandita Nayaka, in a Kopam, so Swami Rara, we utter it in a different way. Rara in a different way. So in likewise, so the dhvani changes in our voice, the modulation, intonation I'm talking about. So how does it impact that word and its meaning? Because it always changes according to the abhinaya that we do.
Okay, let me say,
Sir.
explain this. Achyut Karve will have his explanation. See, we are focusing upon the basic varnaksharas at this moment, in this particular session. Now, elevating a varnakshara to a pada, and then a pada conveying rasadhvani, bhava, and other things is later. Okay?
Sir.
So when we say Swami Rara, Swami Rara, Rara, these things.
Yes, sir.
Here, the basic stuff is still the R and the A. And then on that you add second, third raps of the Swara, Dhvani and all that. So it is no more the basic Varnaksharas. See, the rice, the basic rice has now become a Upama, a Huliogra, a Dosa in the Natya. So don't bring that level. So we are still talking of the rice grains.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I got it.
If we understand this particular thing, then we will be able to appreciate why just one akara becomes alapana and how one a becomes a 18. And this is what Karve said, teach, ka, ch, e, u. And then the other interesting thing, why do you teach the second sutra as ru, k? Why not teach it with a la incorporated in it as ru, k? Because it is samana. So this is the experimentation he is talking. The benefit of this is you will be able to, you means all of us will be able to get the right pronunciation, right memory of sounds, and then use it in a language specific way.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
So this is the contribution what Karveji is bringing as an application. I speak of that in the computer language in a different way. And for the Vedic person, tamasi, tamasa, gulhamagre. Now, what is a gulhamagre? Here you can, then when you want to explain it as a pada, tama asit, tamaha, gudham agre. So we get a dha, and then lo, and then lo. How are you going to explain these details without Shiva Sutra Varnaksharas proper learning? It is like telling, unless you know the Saptaswaras, you cannot jump into the Sarale verse, Janti verse, and then the Natuvarangam, and then the Raga, Kruti, Alapana.
Yes,
So
sir.
if your Saptaswaras has become only 3, Sapasa, how are you going to teach them rest of the story? You understood the point?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I'll intervene.
Yeah,
It is talking about pada. Now it is very difficult for us to define the pada in a tabla composition. What are the padas? The padas, how do we define the padas in the composition? And do we get any shastric viewpoint over it? Now it just happened to me that I heard that every pada has only one udatta. Now this is a rule which Panini has drafted. So what does it mean? That if I have defined a pada in a composition of the tabla, I have to define the udatta in it. So suppose for example, I say that tit is a pada. Now in this, it is a single syllabic word. So in this single syllabic word, the E has to be udatta. Now here he brings the rule that udatta ardharasva. So he is forced to bring that rule, because otherwise it will say tit. This is not the word. The word is tit. So the first half is anudatta and the second half is udatta. So ta, tit, ta, tit, tit, ta, tit. Now here comes the question. So unless we are in a position to define it, if we are not in a position to define the swaras, nothing is possible. We cannot define the pada. And this was my first question to my guru when I asked him that you tell me the phrases in it. Suppose I am playing dhati dhagina dhatirkit dhati dhage dinagina. It is not one letter after another. It is a samhita form constituted of words or phrases or padas. So how do I differentiate, how do I bifurcate the composition into its padas? If I don't know its padas, it will become dhati dhagina dhatirkit dhati dhage dinagi. This is what it will become. That it is here in order to becoming a samhita form, that this pada conception has to be brought into the tabla composition. So, but when can it be brought? If I can define the udatta in it, which will define the pada. For example, tirkit can become a pada if the E of ka becomes udatta. Otherwise, it will become tirakita. It has no meaning. It might become terakita, where T becomes udatta. So the frame, what you said, it changes according to the what you can say, according to the composition. So in fact, musicians should be well aware of it. They are not aware. They sing, they dance as they can. This is what is happening. This is my framework, because I am studying a particular tradition. This is what I am seeing in the tabla. What has been lost is the articulation of letters. This has been lost. This was there. Say 100 years ago, it was still existing, here or there. Now it has been, they have completely given away with it. This is what is happening.
Okay, Karve, let me ask the person who asked the question. In Bharatanatyam, at least a little bit of what I know,
Sir.
they have the Nattuvangam. Okay?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
When you get the Nattuvangam, the Acharya, the master, has to say the sollu. Sollu. So
Yes, sir.
give me a small example of that sollu with a Nattuvangam model, and can you identify where all the Shiva Sutras come into picture? Just one example, half a line, that's okay.
I can talk about the Nattuvangam and the Jati part, but not the Shiva Sutra, sir. I'm sorry.
See, when Karve said that that particular in
I got it.
you just give me half of that, then you will find that you have the same problem in Bharatanatyam teaching, that have lost the pada. So without the pada, the kruti has become just sounds.
Yes, sir.
Dance steps. Okay, can you just give an example of the
Jati? Yeah. Radhitta, Dhimita, Kitataka Kutakati, Kutakata Diginatum, Ditta, Dhimita, Kitataka Talang, Kutakati, Kutakata Diginatum, Ditta, Dhimita, Kitataka, Ditta, Dhimita, Kitataka, Ditta, Dhimita, Kitataka, Kitataka, Ta.
So now, let me intervene. Let me intervene for a minute.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So here, what is happening? It will be very interesting, and this is what the way you recite it.
Sir.
The same type of recitation is there in the Pakhavaj. This is not there in the tabla. For example, da din ta, kitta da din ta, tit, kata, gadi, gana. Now, all these compositions are samvrutta. Unfortunately, they are samvrutta recitation. The samvrutta, and that is because of the instrument also. Secondly, there are viramas in between. The reason is the moment samvrutta recitation comes in, there will be a virama in it. So these are the problems that are being, not that, see, it is a form of art. It represents an era. That is not wrong. However, what the tabla did was it removed this virama in the compositions.
And you are spelling them in an elongated way, sir.
No, not in an elongated way. What I'm saying, see the way in which they have composed the composition. See, for example, if it is dhatir kit tak dhatir kit dhatir ghat tak tu na kit tak, there is no stop in between, there is no virama in between.
There are other jatis, sir. I'm sorry to stop you.
No.
ధితక్కుతం ధీగుణంగుతకతాహ తకటతక ధిత్తలంకు ధిత్తలంకుతం తరిగుణంగుతకతాహ తకటతక ధిత్తలంకు ధిత్తలంకుతం ధీగుణంగుతక కిడతక తరిగుణంగుతక కిడతక ధీగుణంగుతక తరిగుణంగుతక ధీగుణంగుతక తరిగుణంగుతక ధిత్తాద దిగణతం ధిత్తాద దిగణతం ధిత్తాద దిగణతం. So there are other variations.
I'll tell you now how is this samvrutta corruption overcome.
Sir.
The answer to it is by singing it. It is ruka basically. The drum is ruka. It is not sama. So now you are using the sama mode to describe the ruka. Now this is if I am reciting this recitation of the pakhavaj bols with swaras is also there. I will give examples of it. But that should not come with a sama in it. Why sama is necessary? For example, if I say ta da gadnak tak da gadnak tak da arda gadnak tak da arda ding dina, there is no sama in it. It is total ruka. So what is the difference? Again, this question needs to be addressed. For example, Sastry ji asked me, now it is said that Om is the basic sound frame.
Yes, sir.
And the Gita says that in all speech, I am Sama. Now, what is the uniqueness of Sama also? The uniqueness of Sama is that when a Rahaswa A becomes A, that is a Dirgha one, it gets a note form. So, why had Panini to change this A U Ma to A I Una? So the Om aspect of it reflects the Sama aspect of music that is in the Samveda, because it is a much more modulated one. Suppose I was to say, as Panini would have said, this would have been meaningless because there is a viram in between each. Now, what is the answer to it? So it becomes so a swara has been attached to it. This is how it becomes, so that Om is a Samavedic sutra in itself. But it is not a Rigvedic sutra. The Rigvedic sutra has to be A-I-Una because it is Ruka. This is the difference. I'll tell you one more thing. I was just astonished that the Saregama Padanisa in South India and the Saregama Padanisa in North India are different. What is the difference? The difference is that Rishabh, Gandhar, Dhaivat and Nishad are recited in the Saregama as Shuddha Swaras. In South Indian music, they are recited as Komal Swaras. So, Sari, Ga, Ma, Pa. So, the modulation has been removed. In North Indian music, according to who is that, in that Shiksha part, he has written that Rishabh and Dhaivat are Anudatta and Gandhar and Nishad are Udatta. So it would become Sari Gama. It will become like this. Instead of it becomes Sari Gama. Now what is happening? It is correct, but the scale of reciting the basic sounds is different. Then people, we need to reflect upon it. Whether one is the right one or the other is the wrong one. What is his name? Shiksha of Yajnavalkya. Yajnavalkya was the first person to introduce this. That Rishabh and Dhaivat are Anudattas, Gandhar and Nishadas are Udattas. So what I am trying to say is, unless we go through these Maheshwar Sutras, we will not be in a position to understand what is going on. For example, there were, from music also there are examples. Suppose you want to teach how to pronounce or phonate or sing sa. How do you teach the child? Children are losing hours after hours just to say sa. If we know the Maheshwar Sutras, we can teach the child the sa very easily. Telling him that the sa is in the place of the u. You say ooh, then you say modulate the a. The a is not at oo. In music, we will have to modulate the a at the oo. So when I say ooh, sa, a, so there is modulation. And I know that the letters in the Maheshwar Sutras are not those letters which are used in the padas. They have to be modulated before they can be put to any use. So this is what is happening.
Okay, let me just add something to you. You see, Madam spoke about the Natuvangam Bharatam tradition. You spoke about the Vaditra tradition. Okay. Now let me bring that connection to the Vedic recitation. Okay. We have got the Samhita of the Veda, and then we have the Ashtavikruti Patas. One single line, okay, probably the audience, if Kapre Guruji or even our other Shastriji, they will know. Agnim Ile Purohitam, just take 3 words, okay. Now, if we have got to make today's way of Samhita to Krama, Samhita to Pada, Pada to Krama, Krama to Jata, Ghana, and then this like this, we have to modulate so many things. But when it comes to Ghana, people are very proud that I am a Ghana party, and then they make this out, Agnim Ile, Purohitam, Ile, Agnim, Purohitam, like this, the jump from Pada, backwards, forwards, and all that with the Swara modulations. Now, the same problem what you have got in the Pada of the Vaditra, the Damuru or the Dolak or the Pakwaj, okay, our same problem with the Natwanga is there in the Vedic mantra. Are we doing the right kind of Padaswaras, Kramaswaras? Very difficult to question because we have been used to some kind of a teaching and consider that as only the standard. So we need some serious research to say what is Ashtavikruti Patha standards and the Vyakarana grammar of that anchored to Shiva Sutra before we touch upon Pratishakya. So this is a serious subject, and if I have to look at the whole of India as such, maybe about 10 persons would appreciate the problem. The basic problem to be appreciated is this, and the entire problems are there answered in Panini, Ashtadhyayi, and the Nirukta, and the Brihadevata, and other places. One simple example. There is a word called Arya Brahmana, very special word in Panini. Okay? If you say the 2 words Arya and Brahmana, you make a samas of this particular thing, then you have choices. Either you explain that as a Tatpurusha as Garbhodharya or some other samasa. If you make one samasa, because this is a Vedic word, Arya Brahmana, with A as the Udatta rising, the resolution of that, the nirukti of that has to be one particular samasa. But if you make Arya Brahmana, Swara on the Bra, then it has to be a different samasa. And Panini makes one very special rule for that. Very special rule only for this word. If the samasa is made like that, this is the swara. If it is some other samasa, this is not the case. Like that, there are about 1,000 sutras in Panini to mention which swara to go for which samasa and what is the benefit of it. And we have not been studying that. Certainly not McDonald's, certainly not the Harvard, certainly not the other places, not even a single Sanskrit university in India in the last 40 years has gone into this Panini Chandas part. That's called the Vedika Samskrutam. I mean, I'm making a very bold statement. Okay. Now, if somebody says today, this is what my Guruji Vidwan Rangnath Sharma said 40 years ago. If anybody says that they have having the Vidvat in Vyakarana, you can be 100% certain they have studied only the Bhasha portion, not the Swara Prakarana portion in Siddhanta Kaumudi. Period. Because Vidwan Rangnath Sharma was the last person who taught this Vaidika Swara Prakriya in Sanskrit University in Karnataka throughout India. After that, I have not seen many. I have just heard of it. I am not a scholar of that. I don't know too much about that. But that is the criticality of the Vagyoga and the Mantra Prayoga. So without that Paninian understanding, Shadanga Vedanga Adhyayana is at stake. And if that is at stake, all the temple pujas, havans, worship, everything what we are talking is completely scaled down and distorted. So when we say, Om Ganganapataye Namaha, so am I taking gum as Gakara Purva Rupam, Akaro Madhyama Rupam? Are we doing that particular thing as instructed there? No. Then what are we doing? 108 times repeating Ganganapatiya Namaha, Ganganapatiya Namaha. That's not the way the mantrocharana for yajna is to be done. So this correction can be done only by people who have got at least a fair exposure to the tradition and care for the tradition. People like our organizers here, Kapre Guruji and a number of other persons around Vizag and the Visakhapatnam, Bandar, Telangana, Andhra. This Bhumi. So this is not the job in which a TTD will invest. This is not the job which a government will support. Not Srishailam, nobody. Therefore, please get into the very specific thing, how we can help our own tradition with our base of knowledge, with the team members. I don't think anyone here in the group is less than 50. Okay. So if we are discussing this issue in post 50, how are you going to teach this to somebody who is in the age group of 18 and looking for a job or a profession, a satisfaction? How would you get them interested? And how would you get a 8-year-old Gurukul student to get into the technicalities? You just bore them. Hey, you madri chappu, ante. That's all. So listen, repeat, repeat. Ucharana, anucharana has become a Gurukul model. That is not the way to train a Vaidika Snataka. So why are we not understanding this? How are we passing on this tradition? So can we have some serious talk on this action? Okay. I hope I have explained why this is important from our discussion point. Okay.
For today, it's a very excellent topic we have taken up, and cannot be ended with one class, one section like this. It needs a series of discussions, and probably by adding more and more lectures, people who are experts in this line may come into the platform and discuss and expose more to the public. I invite you people, Karveji and Sastry Garu, please give your topics and give us more and more opportunity to serve you in this direction. Thank you very much. Sastry Garu, please give your Achyut Karve Garu, please give your topics and give more lectures on this line. Dhanyavadaha. With this, I hand over the platform to. Shall we close now at this, or anything would like to share?
Any
Shall
other
we close
question?
today?
Anybody?
I just would like to thank you both, sir. That's it.
That's
Okay.
okay.
Masudan Rao Garu, would you like to speak? You are opening your video. Would you like to speak? Masudan Rao Garu. Anybody else would like to speak and share their opinion? And okay. So now it's also time is up. Now we'll have another opportunity.
Hey, one minute.
We'll discuss it.
I was interested in knowing. I did not know who was Nandikeshwara, who composed that shloka for Maheshwar Sutras. But I came to know that he was a person from Nrutya. He wrote on. He was a authority on Nrutya Shastra.
Sumitra ji?
He wrote Bharatarnavam, sir.
And then Bharata was his student.
Nandikeshwara
No,
Karika.
Bharata was his contemporary, sir.
Bharata, on the website, on Wikipedia, it is written that he was his guru. I don't know. But this was a topic which was running in his mind.
Sir, he has written Bharatarnavam, and we only the abridged version called Abhinaya Darpana is available now. Bharatarnavam, unfortunately, we lost it. Only we get it in portions, like parts of it. That's it.
That shows
and
that
Bharata has written a Natya Shastra.
Not Natya, Nrutya Shastra.
Okay, okay.
Nandikeswara has written Nrutya Shastra. Bharata has written Natya Shastra.
Yes, true.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for this opportunity.
Yeah.
Thank you for this.
Please give us more topics and more opportunity for our people to discuss, come on the platform and come into the line of these things, which is being neglected so many years because of various forces acting on the country. Dhanyavadaha. Namaskar, Sastry Garu. Very pleasure to meet you. And Achyut Karveji, thanks for giving another opportunity to hear you. And Babu, please take over and close the session.
Okay. Thank you all for participation. Now we will close the session with Prarthana. Now I request Govindaraj Garu to chant Swasti Mantram, please.
Swasti prajabhyah paripalayantam न्यायेन मार्गेण महीमहीषाः गोब्राह्मणेभ्यः शुभमस्तु नित्यं लोकाः समस्ताः सुखिनो भवन्तु काले वर्षतु पर्जन्यः पृथिवी सस्यशालिनी देशोऽयं क्षोभरहितो ब्राह्मणाः सन्तु निर्भयाः अपुत्राः पुत्रिणः सन्तु पुत्रिणः सन्तु पौत्रिणः अधनाः सदनाः सन्तु जीवन्तु शरदां शतं सत्यं वद धर्मं चर स्वाध्यायान्मा प्रमदः सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः सर्वे सन्तु निरामयाः सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत् ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः ॐ पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः सर्वे जनाः सुखिनो भवन्तु स्वस्ति
ధన్యవాదములండి గోవిందరాజు గారు. Now we will We will recite Janagana Mana. All of you, request you all of you to stand. जनगण मन अधिनायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता पंजाब सिंध गुजरात मराठा द्राविड उत्कल वंगा विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा उच्छल जलधि तरंगा तव शुभ नामे जागे तव सुभाषिष मागे गाहि तव जय गाथा जनगण मंगलदायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता जय हे जय हे जय हे जय 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 हे जय
जय
हिंद।
हिंद, जय हिंद, जय श्री राम, जय श्री राम। धन्यवादाः सर्वेभ्यः। नमस्कारः।
Okay, thank you all for your participation.